All right, we're live, guys. It's Tom Owens with MMAFightPass.com. And pardon us, we're a little bit late. I'll take the blame on it. We're like 30 minutes late. I said 6 o'clock, but I'm late sometimes. But guys, we're here tonight. I got a special guest, an old school guest from the Valley. We're here with Christian Printup. A lot of you guys may not know Christian, but Christian was one of the main guys that helped get this whole Central Valley MMA scene going. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me on here, and it's really nice to be able to catch up with you, man. Like I said, even if it's through a phone or a computer or whatever, So it's great to see you, man.
It's really good to see you too, bro. I got great memories with you and everybody out there in Lemoore at the Tachi Palace. Christian, you were the director of entertainment out there at Tachi Casino back in the day?
Yeah, it was. I was from 2000 to 2009. I was there in Lemoore. I started out as a special events manager and then was promoted to director of entertainment. And so part of my job was to bring entertainment, put on shows. And it just, so happened that boxing and then MMA became two of the things that we sort of, I think, really got really good at and developed a niche at. And the market was there. I mean, the fan base was there. So, and the talent, more than anything, the talent was there. So it made it easy to put shows on because there was such, there was talented fighters and there were fans with an appetite to see them. So it was a perfect marriage.
Yeah, man, and it was a real trip back then. I remember the whole MMA scene here in California, not just the Central Valley, but in California, it was really new. And a lot of the young kids that are fighting today in like the amateur shows and even the pro shows, I don't think a lot of them really understand what went down here in the Central Valley before it got real big. Now, I know you played a big part in the WEC, the World Extreme Cage Fighting. But before that, one of the reasons I brought you on, bro, and by the way, we're really honored to have you on, man, because those old days were really something else. Before the World Extreme Cage Fighting, wasn't there another show that took place, the IFC? Was that what it was?
Yeah, the IFC, Paul Smith. For those but Paul Smith he's an OG. He was doing shows back when like the original UFC started and stuff like that, or maybe right after, but he had the IFC Warriors Challenge. He did shows in Northern California, but he was at Table Mountain, and actually that was the first MMA show I ever went to buy. Was there at Table Mountain. Chuck Liddell fought there. He knocked out Steve Heath from Stockton.
With a head kick, right?
Yeah. And it was crazy. That was like 1999, I guess, 98, 99, around there when they were doing those shows there. We did a couple of them in 2001. We got the WEC going, and it was game on from that point forward.
Yes, it was. It was game on for sure. I remember that first show, that IFC up there at Table Mountain. We went there. And not only did Chuck Liddell fight, I didn't at the time. I had no idea who the guy was. Only like the people that were in his corner and from his town probably knew who he was. But there was also other guys like David Terrell was on that card, who went big later. And then Joe Hurley was on there, and also Jake Shields, all guys that eventually went into the WEC. Am I correct?
WEC, yeah. I don't know if Jake actually fought WEC. I think Jake went to like Strike Force first, and obviously UFC and stuff. But or Jake might have fought the WEC. Man, I don't know. There's so many guys that came through the WEC. It's like sometimes it's hard to remember. Like people go, didn't that guy fight there? And I'm like Leonard Garcia. That's a guy that I love watching the UFC. And he fought on WEC 1, and people don't remember. Chael Sonnen fought in the WEC a little more. Just almost a who's who of MMA, like, fought in Lemoore, California, man. Just little old Lemoore, at our beautiful casino right across from the cows.
Yeah, for you guys out there that are watching that don't know, we're right plumb in the middle of California in the Central Valley. It's basically farmland. And Lemoore, let's talk about Lemoore a little bit, because it's out there on Native American land, right? A Native American reservation, Christian?
Yeah. So it's the Tachioca tribe, and that's their land, the Santa Rosa Rancheria. And so through their tribal sovereignty, and with the propositions that passed in California in the late '90s, they had a bingo hall for a long time, very successful bingo hall. But then when California laws changed and they were allowed to have Vegas style casinos, they were forward thinking and aggressive, and they were one of the first tribes to open up a full scale legit casino in California.
And back in those days, with the MMA scene, weren't those Native American lands? That was the only place that we could have these fights, right?
Yeah, basically, because it was still illegal in California. It was unsanctioned, it was illegal, it was unregulated. So the California State Athletic Commission, and back then, in like the year 2000 or 2001, when we started WBC, Rob Lynch was probably still the head of it, low ISO guys. You couldn't do it. I mean, you could have smokers like in the gym, or you had to be on tribal land, because then the athletic commission has no jurisdiction. The state has no jurisdiction. So we were doing shows well before. They say the first MMA event in California, legal event, was Strikeforce, right? And that's when Caesar Gracie fought, Frank Shamrock. But we were doing shows, high level shows in Lemoore for 4 or 5 years before that, or 3 or 4 years, I don't know.
Hey, and man, along with the Indian reservation, what I noticed right from the beginning is you guys always had, and they were game too. They were some of the gamest fighters that I saw. Was you guys had Native Americans that would fight on each one of these cards, and those dudes, hey, they would fight anybody. It seemed like. Talk about that. We're working with the Native American kids, and like Jacob Jeff and Sam Ochoa, right? Was he was one of the coach?
Yeah, Sam, rest in peace. Sam was, Kempo instructor. I think he's originally from the Bay Area, but had a school in Lemoore. And so it's really cool for me as a professional, Native American myself, to be able to see tribes stand on their sovereignty and be able to put on the types of shows that we did without having the state having to be involved. But the person that set it off, that really got everything going there, was Tony Alaniz. If you remember Tony fought WEC 1. Tony fought a number of times, and he was the first person. Tony was he was super, super tough, trained really hard. And so Tony kind of opened the door for Poppies and Mickey and those other guys, and Jacob got in there, and so growing up on reservations and rancherias, I mean, you have to be tough. There's no doubt about it. It's like growing up in any kind of neighborhood where you just have to be tough, and you have to be able to hold your own, and you can't let people just push you around. You gotta stand your ground. So there's that mindset there already, and then that there was athletic ability, and the thing I'll always take away the most from I got to train with all those guys a little bit, spar with them and stuff, is that no matter whether they weighed 150 or they weighed 190, they had heavy hands, man. And
yes, and they'll let you know they got them too.
Yeah, they let them go, man. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'll never want to ever experience, and some of them are just getting clobbered by Mickey's or Poppies actually kind of take it easy on me because he knew I was kind of old and he wanted, but Mickey didn't care. Mickey was cracking me.
Tough kids right there.
Absolutely.
Jacob Jeff, Jacob Jeff I have so much respect for, because I remember I had fought Tony, and I actually got a broken nose thanks to old Tony. But I got the chance to train with Jacob and them right in the beginning when they were getting into it. And then later on, I remember Jacob coming back like years later to one of our gyms and actually tapping me out with like an ankle lock or something. And he stuck with the game, and he kept evolving. And man, Jacob played a big part in a lot of other guys' careers too, like Joe Soto and Javier Ayala and some of these other guys. Talk about Jacob Jeff a little bit, because you met Jacob right in the very beginning, right?
Yeah. I got there as soon as I got there. Jacob was working, at the casino. He's been working there for a long time. I started in July of 2000, working there for the Palace. And at that time, it was called the Palace Indian Gaming Center. That was the name. And, met Jacob right away. And then as we got going with MMA and stuff, got to know him even more. And he was a huge force, as he still is, behind the scenes. He's not only one of the best minds in the gaming business when it comes to slot machines, casino slot floors, and the types of games and things like that, and stuff on the casino side of it, gaming ops side. But he just is a huge advocate for MMA, for combat sports, the WEC and then the PFC, and he had those slot machines made, the WEC slot machines, which I still to this day never seen another promotion have their own slot machines. And Jacob is someone that unfortunately I don't get to see that often anymore, because I'm on this side of the country, and we might not even talk a lot on the phone, things like that. But we stay in touch a lot, through social media, and he's someone that I consider a brother, man.
Yeah, I got I just have so much respect for Jacob. Now Christian, for people that don't know, you're living, where are you at exactly? You're in Niagara Falls, you were saying?
Yeah, I'm in Niagara Falls, New York. So I'm originally from Niagara Falls, New York, and in 2016, late 2015, I started talking to the Seneca Gaming Corporation about coming here to take on the position I have now, which is Senior Executive Director of Entertainment and Special Events for the Seneca Gaming Corporation. And so what I do in my role there is we have 3 casinos. We have a casino in Niagara Falls, a casino in Buffalo, and a casino in Salamanca, New York, which is about an hour and 20 minutes south of here. And I oversee the entertainment and production services department for all 3 properties. We have concerts. We have probably 4 or 5 concerts a month or comedy shows. We have bands and DJs every weekend at all 3 casinos. So we do a lot of shows, and a lot, like 100 concerts, 500 performances when you include all the bands and stuff on the weekends. Our department also, doing production services, handles all the lighting and video and audio on the property. Even things like the cable television and stuff like that. We make sure that stuff's going. So,
what about the fight scene? Are you guys doing MMA shows and boxing over there?
So yeah, man, I inherited, we have a really good relationship with King of the Cage, Terry Treblecock. So when I got here, I was working for Bellator MMA, so I did for 4 years prior to taking this job. So I left Bellator, which was a super tough decision to make, because I really loved working for Bellator. And all my, the people there that I worked with, the athletes and everything, it was amazing. Everyone at Viacom and Spike, that stuff, and TV Network stuff. But this was just one of those opportunities that I just couldn't say no to. So came here, and they already had a contract with King of the Cage. So we've been doing shows with King of the Cage. Not as many as they did before. We do a couple a year, 2 a year, and we just launched our boxing series. I do everything under the Seneca Fight Night umbrella. It's just a little different here. My role isn't as hands-on with the fights as it was before. Here, I negotiate the deals with the promoters, and then the promoters come in and they do their thing. Whereas in the more, I was kind of like the promoter. I was like the promoter and the entertainment director, and that stuff still runs through my veins. But to be quite honest, man, I just don't have the bandwidth to actually get that involved here. It's a little different when you have 1 casino versus, we have 3 versus 1, man. My days were just super long, and if I was trying to match fights and everything, I'd probably have less hair than I even have right now.
Less gray hairs. Hey, I know you train jiu-jitsu, and I know that you promoted the boxing and concerts here in Lemoore too, but when did you get involved in martial arts training? Did you train as a kid, or was it like doing these MMA shows that got you into it?
Yeah, it was definitely doing MMA shows. I boxed for like a month at the local YMCA when I was here in New York as a kid. But mostly I played basketball and baseball. I played basketball in high school, and I played a season in college. But yeah, I couldn't tell you what a single takedown was or anything until I started watching. I started watching UFC first, but I started training when I was out there and was around it, and you get interested, and then places open up, and the Valley Fight Club in Hanford or wherever, or the box, you know what I mean? Your spot.
Yeah.
Right? And
those are old school spots right there.
Yeah. I remember, at a seminar there for box, man, and that's where Luis gave me one of my stripes. Yeah, it was just from that, and I wish, I never trained consistently. That was my whole thing. Like I would go and I would take some kickboxing classes, and I would roll no gi, or I'd have a gi, and I'd go, but I was never I can never honestly say I really trained full time, because I didn't, you know what I mean? And it wasn't, I don't think because I didn't want to, it was just work and family and things like that, you know what I mean? But
busy guy.
Yeah, but when I realized as I got older, so 2007, I trained on and off for a few years, you know what I mean? But 2007, I tore my Achilles tendon training kickboxing out there at the barn in Hanford. This is what Jeremy earlier, when you posted I was going to be on, Jeremy said to ask me about the bee.
The bee sting. He said if I was an original gangster or a real gangster that I would ask you about this bee sting question.
Yeah. I love that dude to death, man. So what happened?
What happened with the bee?
We were out there at Richard Batten, right? Richard Batten was the Muay Thai coach there at the barn in Hanford. It was literally just a barn. He had no idea that people would be training there. And so
I remember the barn.
I was in the ring. Jeremy was down on the ground working the bag, and Richard had me working combos. And it was I threw a knee, the right knee, and it was supposed to be a switch kick. So I switched my feet. I went to throw my left, high kick, and I felt like this thing I've never felt in my life. I heard a crack. If you have a wooden baseball bat, and you're at that, and you rip rip a line drive, and you hear that crack. I felt that, and I heard that inside my body. And my ankle, it literally felt like someone hit me with a hockey stick or something. I had no idea what happened. And the ring that Richard had, the ropes, the rope coverings were all tattered, so the cable was coming through. So I thought literally that I backed up and hit my ankle on one of the ropes. And I kind of fell down, what the hell's going on? Was I fully ruptured my Achilles tendon. And I'm sitting there in shock, and Jeremy's he stops hitting the bag or whatever, and he's like, dude, maybe you got stung by a bee. And I was like, man, shut up. And I just get stung by a bee. So he always jokes to me about getting stung by a bee, but yeah, that Achilles stuff, man, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. That was not fun.
I'll bet. Yeah, Jeremy, man, I know Jeremy learned a lot from you, and I'm sure Jeremy has a ton of respect for you because, he saw you do this whole thing that he's doing now. What do you think about what Jeremy's got going on now?
I think it's fantastic, and I told him this. I've always told him this, man. For as successful as he's been with 559 fights, and on the managing side with Jason House and stuff. The thing, and I'm super proud of him for all that. But the thing I'm most proud about Jeremy is him as a dad, man. He's a great father. He's had his kids. He's had I think almost all his kids, except maybe just one full time. Been holding it down. and as a single parent myself, I know what that requires. How much effort that takes, and but professionally, man, I'm super proud of him. I met him when he was a sports writer, for the Hampton Sentinel. We did the whole project thing, writer to fighter, and then I was able to hire him at the casino as one of our coordinators, and he works hard and he hustles, man. He hustles, but that's the thing I'm most proud of is seeing how successful his children are, and how positive. They're good kids, man. They're all going to school, furthering their education, and that's, to me, that's what life's about, man.
Yeah, Jeremy, man. Like I told you, we were at his show the other night in Orange Cove, and we go to all Jeremy shows. We love to support our local guys, but Jeremy he's serious about his deal, man. Like he takes it serious, and you can tell the way he treats all the fighters and the coaches. He's serious about his thing. Not just Jeremy that you had a big part in, bro. Like you had a big part in a lot of us locals, man. And not just us locals, but a lot of guys that were coming in from like San Luis Obispo. I remember the WEC in Lemoore, like guys like before anybody really knew who they were, like John Hackelman and Chuck Liddell and Uriah Faber and all these different guys out of Sacramento. A lot of those guys got their start there, man. Talk about that, because a lot of these guys that made it into UFC, people around here don't realize, like back then, we literally had a gateway to the UFC right there in Lemoore with that WEC. You know what I mean? If you could do good out there, you could go right into the UFC.
Yeah, there's no question about it, man. The WEC, it was created with the best of intentions, and it fulfilled what it was intended to do. But there was no doubt that if you wanted to get to the UFC, you would prove yourself in the WEC, because there was no question that was the best organization outside of the UFC in North America. And on some levels, some of the shows we had at the WEC, I think, were better than some of the Pride shows at that time, to be quite honest with you.
Yes, definitely.
And people don't realize Nick Diaz made his pro debut in Lemoore in the WEC. Nick fought in the WEC. Frank Shamrock fought in the WEC.
Yep.
Talked about Bill Sargent, Chris Lytle. And old school guys too, like Mark Weir, Leonard Garcia fought out there. Gosh, man, we had our Gilbert Melendez, Richard Crunkleton, remember him?
Yep.
Benuelos.
Old school guys right there.
Cole Escobedo, of course.
Glover Texera? Remember Glover Texera fought out there?
Oh yeah, Glover, yeah. Glover, he fought, I remember he fought, that was in the PSE with George Oliveira. But yeah, Glover coming out fighting Sokoju's. Glover fought, that was Sokoju's first fight in North America was against Glover there. And I remember we were waiting and in the Sierra Grill, the restaurant, that I don't know what they do with it anymore, but it was the Sierra Grill at the time. And we're sitting there, all of a sudden this jacked up dude with dreadlocks walked in, looks like a predator. And everyone's like, who the hell is this guy?
Straight up jacked on every Mexican supplement there was?
Yeah, but Scott Adams was like, oh, that's Terry, because his name's, Ramo Terry Silverdew. He was like, that's who Glover's fighting. I was like, damn, wow. And then Glover knocked him out, I think, pretty fast. But it's pretty cool to see that, like Fernando Gonzalez. Fernando Gonzalez is another guy that was really cool for me too, because Fernando fought in the WEC when he was like 19. Keith Berry, same thing. He fought in the WEC really young. And then, like, I got to work with them when they were in Bellator, and see them, man, Shoni Carter, Ron Waterman. It was so many.
Hey, and what about Jason Von Flue? Remember, one of my good memories was seeing Jason Von Flue go out there, and the first time I saw him put that Von Flue choke on a guy was out there.
Yeah, Von Flue. So Reed and Scott would tell me about Von Flu, and they say there's this guy in the gym, and it's like he just doesn't look like a fighter. He looks kind of, I don't want to say dopey is what they said.
Like a professor?
Like, he's just the nastiest dude on the mat. Like, you just don't want this dude on top of you. The pressure that he brings is ridiculous. And like, and that's the thing about jiu-jitsu players and catch wrestlers and stuff like that, right? Is you got guys that, they might not look, because they don't have to be big and like buff, right? But technique and pressure and, knowing how to use your body, as a black belt, like, so yeah, Von Flu with that Von Flu choke, I mean, it's just been, it's cool to see, and no matter what anyone said, I know the other guy, OSP or something, has been getting it a lot, but to me, it'll always be the Von Flu choke.
Definitely the Von Flu choke. There's a lot of guys that I remember going out there and, because I was big into jiu-jitsu back then. I think I was like a blue belt or something back then, but I was really into the jiu-jitsu fighters. Another guy, of course, was Nate Diaz, and then Cairo Parisian is one that I really remember him doing that judo throw into that Kimura. And then later on, the reason I remember these guys is because they did it out there in the WEC, and then later on pay-per-view, I saw him do it in the UFC, the same technique. And you know what that takes to pull off a move like that. Like, you've really got to put some work into to do one of those Kimuras like Cairo Parisian did, or the Von Flu choke. Locals, though, there's a couple guys that I got to give a lot of props to. Cole Escovedo is one. Because Cole, I remember training at Pacific Martial Arts in Fresno with Cole back when we were both white belts, and we were under Dave Camarillo at the time. And nobody knew who Cole was. And I just remember Cole going from jiu-jitsu tournaments into the WEC. Talk about Cole Escovedo a little bit, because that dude was dangerous.
Yeah, man, Cole was so, his triangle, so nasty. Super tough kid, obviously. Chip on his shoulder. If I had to describe Cole back then, it was chip on his shoulder. Definitely had something to prove to everyone.
Nasty ass triangle.
He was the baddest dude in any room he was in. Didn't matter. And super technical jiu-jitsu. Strong-willed, strong-minded, huge heart. And it's funny, man. Our relationship is great, but we butt heads. At the time, because I was helping. Cole was coming up, and then Poppy started coming up, and I think Cole had the belt, and I was like, helping Poppy's because I lived there, I trained with him. Poppy's like my little brother, and so, and then Cole and I we became super, super cool. I always had a ton of respect for him. Cole, he had obviously Dougie,
Doug Marshall's another one. That's what I was going to ask you about next. Like, a lot of people, what was cool about you bringing these guys into the WC is not just us local people, but including yourself. You didn't really know too much about these local guys and what they could do. And Doug Rhino Marshall, he was another kid off the street. I remember him growing up as just a skateboarder, just a street kid, and happened to be a dude that got into a lot of fist fights on the street and did a little time in jail, and just happened to be one of those kind of dudes. Talk about Doug Marshall, because you played a big part in Doug's career.
I love Doug, man, and it's been so cool to say that I've been there for almost all of his fights, man. I was around, WEC stuff, and then he fought me with that Playboy show, and then of course Bellator. We came over, he won the tournament, and we won $100,000 and everything. But Doug, so this is crazy. So this is how it happened with Doug.
Yeah, how did you hear about Doug? Who was the guy that told you about Doug?
Steve Easley, my tattoo artist. I was getting tattooed, and Steve said, "Hey, I have a buddy that wants to fight," and he's super tough. Everyone knows him. He's got a great look. He's like a little Tank Abbott. Because Doug was still heavyweight at the time. And I said, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, those were the days, man, back then where it was like, and I guess because I knew I could just call Scott and Reed and say, hey, we're putting this guy on, and they weren't going to say no. And I trusted Steve's opinion. But that's pretty much how it happened, man. I had never met Doug. I I took the word of Steve Easley while I was getting a tattoo, and we threw him in there. And I think his first fight was LeVar. I don't think no, maybe not. But we put him in there. And just you knew you had someone that was meant to be in the cage once you saw him the first time. No doubt. And I haven't seen many people as athletic and explosive as him at that size. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, his family, though, all of them, him and his brothers, they have those genetics, but they also have that grittiness. You know what I mean? Because not just anybody has that grittiness that he had. But yeah, he was another one that went in there that the locals all knew who he was, but he made it to the $100,000 check, right? That's what it was in Bellator, a tournament.
Yeah, he won the tournament, man. It's the toughest. Back then, Bellator, we still did the tournaments. It was the toughest tournament in sports. You had to win 3 fights in 3 months against some of the best guys in the world, and then you get your title shot. And I remember after Doug won his first fight, it was in Michigan. We were in Michigan, central Michigan, up north of Michigan. And, it's just cool because, I'm there. I'm director of operations for Bellator, and then it's like I got Doug there, Tom's there. And, it's kind of like a reunion, you know what I mean? And play and stuff. But Doug, I won, and he beat Calahos, knocked him out. And then it's like they're celebrating and everything. And then, I have to go back and check him out. Be like, hey, how's your hand? Everything feel good? Anything broken? You good? Doctor's going to check you out. And I was like, this is going to be fight. You fight for 3.5 weeks. And next fight. They were like, what? You know what I mean? It's a whole different ballgame, man, those tournaments back then.
Yeah, it was something else back then. What was cool too, man, is I'll say it again, is when a lot of these guys, you would get these names and people would just offer up hey, here's a guy that's coming from so and so. I remember when Poppies Martinez, he had the belt for some time. I think it was the 155 belt, and we at Jabushi Martial Arts was one of the first jiu-jitsu schools ever in Visalia. And that was where me and Doug and Mike Sir and all these guys were, Luis Gonzalez, and a lot of us were all training. And this kid came to us one day, just showed up out of nowhere. His name was Corey Cass, and he was a little guy. He was a young dude, and we didn't know him for very long. He had trained with us for maybe a month or two, and he had a few fights, I think, in King of the Cage or something down south. And he wanted to fight, and he just jumped in there. He just decided to take that fight with Poppies. And remember, he got him in that crazy-ass arm lock?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that was that like a what was that to this day? What was that like a...
It's like an Americana. It does the same, the same torque as an Americana key lock, but from the guard, though. And that was a move that Corey had taught us. That was one of his main things. I still, to this day, I don't think I've seen any other people use that technique. But it was crazy because nobody knew who Corey was, and Corey came into us, and we just thought, here's another dude that's coming in, and he just jumped right in there with Poppies. That was his first fight in the WEC, right? Right into a title fight.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it was. Corey's fantastic, man. Yeah, and that's right. It was like a reverse Americana from the guard. It was crazy. And I just remember seeing Poppies' arm, and I'm like, I've never seen anyone's arm go like that. And that was gnarly, man. And you see Corey now. He's been a black belt for years, right?
Corey's doing his thing out there. He's promoting tournaments, the Grappling X tournament. He's doing his thing. Yeah. Us here in the Valley, especially in Visalia, we all have a ton of respect for Corey, because when Corey came in, even before I fought my first fight, Corey had already had 4 fights with King of the Cage or Gladiator Challenge, and he didn't have the best record. He had lost most of those fights, but he was just one of those dudes that would just jump in there. You know what I mean? He loved to fight, and that's a guy that we have a lot of respect for right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, me too, man. And that's the thing with MMA. It's records. In boxing, everyone makes a big deal out of someone's record. Oh, this guy, you can't get a title shot till you're 20-0 or whatever. But in MMA, it's not like that, because there's so many ways to win, so many ways to get beat. And you look at records of like some of the Hall of Famers, you know, guys like Chuck and guys like Randy and things like that. Like their records aren't fantastic. Like I don't know off the top of my head, you know, Randy Couture's records, but I'm guessing, you know, it's like 15 and 10 or something like that. It's 15 and 8.
It's good.
Journeyman, you know what I mean? But he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best to ever do it, you know, because it's just it's a whole different ballgame. So yeah, records to me, records never meant as much in MMA as it did in boxing. I'd always want to look at, especially if I was matching a fight, like, because you can take someone that, like, say he has like a 2-5 record, but you know he's a Division I wrestler. You know what I mean? And so if you put him in there with someone that's, you know, that doesn't have, you know, wrestling or any kind of takedown defense, he's going to take him down. He's going to pound him out. It's going to probably be boring, but he's going to win. It doesn't matter if that guy's 4-0 or 5-0. He's just a kickboxer. And I don't say just a kickboxer because I have some respect for kickboxers, but I mean, if he's not someone that has the ground game or at least the ability to stuff a takedown, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a long night. And there's a lot of guys like that in sport. So I worked with one of them, Zach Light. Zach Light, one of our matchmakers at Bellator. You know, didn't have the best record in MMA, but was a high-level wrestler, super tough, could throw hands, but it wasn't his forte. But if you weren't able to like stop a takedown or something, you know, you could be 10-0 because you fought a bunch of guys that, you know, whatever. You can manufacture some record to an extent. But yeah. I'm sorry, I get off my tangents, man. I don't know.
It's all good, man. Dude, there's so much, there's so many good stories and memories I have from those Lemoore WEC days. Some of these other locals I got to give some props to. Mike Martinez is one of them. Now, and then Mike Moreno, he's another one. But Mike Martinez, I don't know Mike that well. I got a lot of respect for him. Is he Native American? Because I know he trained with Sam Ochoa and all you guys out there. How did Mike hook up with like Tony and Poppies and those guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe Mike. I believe Mike's like the Mexican American, you know. But no, he's just, I don't know. I don't even know how I first met him. But he just showed up one day. They were trained with him, Amito and Jacob and Sam and all those guys, and you tell right away, okay, this kid's young, he's strong, he's big, he's athletic. I think he was a pretty good football player, and I think he wrestled in high school. But, you know, just...
Dude, he fought a lot. Mike seemed like he fought a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he did. And he fought Lou Brocco, or... Because Bob Cook had asked me how Javier Mendez to help him make some fights at Table Mountain for another show, and I put Mike on. I feel like Mike fought Lou Brocco at Table Mountain. Rocky Molina fought there too against someone else from AK that turned out to be pretty good. I'll have to double check, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Lou Brocco that Mike fought. But I couldn't be more proud of that dude. Like, you know, has a successful schools, black belt. You know, he made black belt in like 7 years or something, right? Like,
yeah, he did it pretty quick.
So, and I know he was grinding like on the max like 6 days a week, plus working like a 12-hour shift job or something. That dude works his butt off, and so it doesn't surprise me because you know people that work hard, like if you're a hard worker, you know, something like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, you know. That's what you need to do. You know what you're like, right? You gotta rep, right? You gotta be willing to show up every day, keep getting better, keep get your butt kicked, whatever, but just keep learning and never quit. And those guys do well. I'm really proud of that team.
And then Mike Moreno is another one, like, because I remember when Mike was fighting out there, like I got a ton of respect for Mike and what he's doing today. But Mike, he was with Jasper in those that Muay Thai camp back then. He wasn't really a jiu-jitsu guy back then, right? He would keep dudes on their feet, and that dude was dangerous on his feet.
He was. I remember Scott Adams, who was the matchmaker, you know, for WC and co-owner. He lit up, man. He said, he was like, dude, he was like, I found this kid. He was like, I found this kid a badass. And because he was out there with Jasper, with Team Holloway, and training with, Billy Evangelista, George Evangelista, those guys. And, Mike was a, kickboxer, right? And they're all from, like, Parlier, you know what I mean? Just tough dudes. I think they're from Parlier, somewhere around there. And, super, super tough, strong, athletic. Now you see him, I watched the tournament, his first tournament at Black Belt, not too long ago, and it's cool to see that, man. Those guys, Central Valley, California has so many, it's produced so many amazing fighters.
And dude, look at how many jiu-jitsu schools are now.
They kept going, I'm sorry, there's another kid that I always wish kept going. I don't even know where he went. Josh Green.
Yeah, I know. It's one of our guys right there.
Wrong dude, man. And I wish he would have kept going. But it was a lot of talent out there, man, and obviously a lot of I think a lot of it has to go back to wrestling's big there, so that to me wrestling's like the best base for jiu-jitsu, the best base for MMA, and some kids work in the fields, or they work in the farms, or do all that stuff, so they're just strong, they're tough, man, so.
Yeah, Josh Green, he reminded me of like a Matt Hughes type of a dude.
Yeah.
He's just one of those country boy type of dudes. And then what about Luis Gonzalez? He's another one like Mike Moreno, Mike Martinez, and these guys. Like not all fighters. You probably realize like most of them. I'd say a good 80% of them, man. When they come out of their fighting career, they don't do anything like successful after that. But quite a few of our guys actually locally have opened up their own school and done their own thing after, and it is pretty cool to see because unless you got a college degree or something, there's not a lot to do after you come out of a fighting career.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Some of the guys that, I guess if you made it to the UFC at the time when money started getting real good, you could be all right. But it's cool to see these guys open up their own gyms, become coaches, and transition to that stuff. But Luis, I miss that guy so much, Speedy. And it was great to be able to learn from him when I got to train with him, and to be able to put him in the PFC. We started the PFC. We were actually, I can't say we were the first in North America because I want to say Hook and Shoot actually did flyweights first, but
the 125 division.
Yeah, 125 division. So what I thought was our matchmaker, so this was after the WEC, right? The WEC we had from 2001 to 2006. And then in 2006, the Zuffa, the parent organization of the UFC, bought it and took it out a little more, moved it to Vegas. They bought it because they had to block the IFL from going on the Versus Network, really, is kind of what it came down to. And they were going to either buy the WEC or I think they were going to buy Total Combat from San Diego. So they bought WEC, and it was fantastic for the WEC, and they moved to Vegas and did the thing, and, they went away, but we created the PFC because we couldn't leave the great fans, the great MMA fans of Central Valley, we couldn't leave them without a show, on a good show, a high level show, and I didn't want all the athletes to be left without anything too, because unfortunately, Dougie had the light heavyweight belt at the time from the WEC, so they brought him over when Zuffa bought it, but there wasn't a lot of the guys from the WEC roster that were like Central Valley guys, like Fox, Bees, and some others that they brought over. They had just signed Uriah, so they had Uriah still, and but we put the PSC together and.
Christian, when you guys started the PFC, that was directly after Zuffa bought the WEC?
Yeah.
Because you started it pretty close after that, I remember.
We had no choice, man, because we had a WEC show planned for January of 2007, and we were getting ready to go on sale and everything. And then this all happened a month prior, and they told us basically, it was real late at night one night. They told us they, weren't going to be able to do the show, and so I was like, well, we have to have a show next month. So I left home. I went into my office, and like midnight, and then by 6 in the morning, we had another show. It was going to happen in a month, and it was called the PFC. And, we weren't gonna stop doing shows. So just started working on it, man. Just started putting it together, and we had Richard Goodman as a matchmaker, and he did a fantastic job. Was actually still trying to keep Uriah on that show to fight, but it's terms of his contract with WC, like they put a stop to that right away. So we did the best we could to get going on a month's notice. We brought in Butterbean and things like that, but from promoting boxing, there was so much action in like the featherweight division of boxing, 126, 130 pounds, and things like that. So I was like, no one's really giving these. There's guys that are fighting at 135 or 145, but like when I look at their body type, I'm like, this guy could fight at 125. Like this guy's a featherweight. He's featherweight. You know what I mean? He's being forced to fight higher because no one's making fights at 125. So I got with Richard. I said, hey, let's create a 125 division, and let's go out and try to find the best guys we can, and let's start bring it together and do all that stuff. So Luis was fantastic. Pat Brunez out of Arizona, Ulysses Gomez.
Yep.
Cobra Kai.
Another guy that made it far.
Yeah, we got Ulysses and Ramba M16 Samdet. We brought him in from Thailand, and M16 fought, and there was a bunch of dudes. And then after I left, they brought in like Formica and stuff like that. But it was cool. It was cool to start the 125-pound division. At least started, I should say, on a level where we were really contesting it, and really trying to make good fights, bring in talent from around the world, and give them a platform. I think our fights might have been streamed on Sherdog at the time, and so that was a lot of fun to see. And then I knew it was going to do something because Reed Harris, who was the co-owner of the WBC, and then when him and Scott left when Zuffa bought it, and then after a couple of years, they got rid of Scott, unfortunately, which was BS in my opinion. They made Sean Shelby the WBC matchmaker. Reed stayed on as the GM, and Reed's still there. We talked a little bit here and there. We're still friends. He's a vice president at the UFC. He's been there now for.
Is Reed Harris? He's involved with the UFC?
Oh yeah, he's a VP of athlete relations. He's been there for 14 years. He's been there the whole time now. Yeah.
That's good to know.
So So Reed's actually I was out there in October, and we were supposed to catch up. I was going to go to the new UFC headquarters and offices and stuff and catch up, but my schedules didn't align. So but Reed called me one time, and he was like, this 125-pound division thing he's doing, he's flying. He's like, how's it going? And I was like, dude, it's going good. Like, there's a lot of talent, and they're fast, and a lot of them have boxing backgrounds, a lot of them wrestled. Obviously, just players. I mean, it was just good. There was exciting fights there at 125. So he actually came out to one of the PFCs when we had the featherweights fighting, and was just kind of hanging out up on the stage with me and watching. And then I don't know how soon it was after that. It wasn't immediate, but eventually the UFC introduced 125-pound division,
I know you had a huge. You had a huge part. You had a huge part in that.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if they would have done it because remember, for a long time the UFC didn't even have lightweights. They didn't even have 155ers.
Right.
So I don't know if they would have went to 125 if they had seen what I call proof of performance, which is what we did. We proved that 125-pound fighters could put on exciting fights, could stop people, which is important because that's what you need. I mean, you got to have. Every fight can't go to a decision. You know what I mean? You got to be able to have people that can create stoppages. So that's cool, man. It's good to, it's fun. I look back on my life. life, my career, and there's been ups and there's been downs. There's been a little bit of everything in between, but it's always been fun. And I've met so many good people along the way, like yourself and everyone in the jiu-jitsu and martial arts community, and it's just very grateful.
Yeah, it's been a real journey, man. Like, if to go back into those days and then to look back now, it's been quite a journey. What are some of your greatest memories with working with these local guys, and like especially the Native Americans, man? Because I just remember, out of everybody you guys would bring in from all around California and stuff, those Native American kids had so much heart. And what are some of your greatest memories out there with the WEC?
Wow, man, so one thing that always stood out was, so on the WEC, we were the first MMA company, MMA show on HDNet, which turned into Access TV, right? It was owned by Mark Cuban. So we were the first. So I remember the shows coming out and starting with, and now it's the same people that, like Ron Kruk and stuff, that do the LFA now. And so this is going back 19 years ago, dude. That's crazy. I remember being in a Sears and going through the television section or electronics or whatever, and one of the TVs was tuned to HDNet, and the WEC from Lamore came on. And I'm like walking through Sears, the Hanford Mall or Visalia Mall or wherever, I can't remember where it was. And I was just like, that's crazy, dude. Like, that's our casino, that's our show. And it's like, we're on TV. And then you start to read the forums, like the old school, underground forum on MMA.TV and stuff, UG. And then you see people just talking about the WEC and talking about Lamore and all the fighters and the classic fights that we had, like Olaf and Polakowski.
Dude, Olaf,
man.
Good Lord.
Can't have a conversation about MMA in the Central Valley and the WEC without Olaf, because that dude was just one of a kind, man. This fight with Charles Polakowski, if any MMA fan out there has never seen Olaf versus Polakowski.
Did you guys know who Olaf was?
You gotta watch that fight.
Olaf Alfonso, good Lord, dude.
Yeah.
That dude, his nose? What about his nose?
His nose is broken a few times, right? And he's a black belt, under Ricardo Cavalcante, I think. But I talked to him. Well, it's been a while, but he was living in Guatemala or Honduras or something. But he was just such a colorful character.
Dude, didn't he come from Ensenada every time to fight?
I never knew where he came from, man.
Some island in the middle of nowhere.
Dude, Olaf would be like, Olaf, how are you training for this fight? He's like, I'm gonna meditate and I'm gonna hang out in this tree.
Yes.
And I'm breathing.
And he wasn't kidding. He wasn't kidding either about that.
He was not kidding. Like, he's just such a gracious person, generous, kind, super crazy, freaky strong. And I think Olaf's thing was, I think his jiu-jitsu, I think his ground game was always there.
He didn't want no part of going to that ground, though.
He didn't. And I think, what I think, and he said this, he would say things like this, but like always in a roundabout way. But I get it a little more now if this is what he meant. He would say, like, I know I can do that. Like, I know I can go to the ground and I can submit people. Like, I'm in here to do something that I want to find out, like, how I want to do something I don't think I can do or I don't know I can do. You know what I mean? And so I think maybe as I dive deeper into the jiu-jitsu lifestyle and like, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm big, I'm heavy, I can probably smash past this dude, but like, why? Like, let me try this. Let me try to play this spider guard or something that I'm probably not great at. Because what's the point of me doing something that I know I can do? Like, I'm not going to get better that way. I'm not going to learn anything about myself because I'm not going to be uncomfortable. And so I think Olaf may have put himself in uncomfortable situations as a way to continue to learn more about himself.
Dude, yeah, those were the good old days. Someone that sticks out to me, like one of my favorite guys ever from the WEC that made it big, was Shoney Carter. Shoney, Mr. International Carter. And Shoney would come all the way from Chicago, and I remember he would walk out in these pimp suits Remember, he would walk out with these tremendous pimp suits, and the crowd, they would literally be yelling. They would love it when Shoney fought. They would literally be yelling, "We hate you, Shoney!" Like it. And he would just go out there and spinning back fist somebody. Talk about Shoney Carter a little bit, because didn't he get the belt in UFC later on?
Shoney, I don't know if Shoney ever had a UFC belt, but Shoney had fought in the UFC before he came to the WEC, right? So he had already fought there. He had like the fights there. Like Matt Serra was a spinning back fist thing, right? Or whatever, but I think.
Yeah, you're right.
So he came over to the WEC, Mr. International, man. He was just always, he was fun, dude. He was fun. Obviously, great judo player, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, like everything. He was so well-rounded and so charismatic. He always put on great fights. And then, and it was cool to see him back when he was in the fight. Like they did they brought the guys back or whatever scene that was. I can't remember, but it was cool to see him there. And Ryan Stan's another guy that got his start in the WEC. He was in the Marines actually. He emailed Scott Adams and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get on the Marine pretty soon." And I'm like, "I'd like to fight." And so Scott put him on. He did a show at San Manuel Casino down south. And then you see Brian Stan go on from there to WC. Obviously, I think he beat out Rector Bell. Yeah. And then the UFC and everything he's doing, Razor Rock McCullough, all these guys, the Healy brothers, there's just so many tough dudes.
There's so many to name, dude. There's so many to name. Razor Rob McCullough is another one that maybe a lot of these local people don't know about. Look him up on YouTube, though, because he's on there. Razor Rob was really something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we move on here, dude, I got a couple questions from some local guys. Mike Martinez, he says there was a time, his favorite moment with you was, he says you paid him to wear a PFC shirt at another event that he was walking out to fight. Do you remember that or what?
I remember that. I don't remember the show it was. I don't know if it was Gladiator Challenge or a different one, but yeah, man. I mean, I was a promoter. I was trying to get our brand out there, and there was always, I think, healthy competition. I always felt like, here's the one thing that I always said, and I meant from the bottom of my heart, like, I know there's some promoters out there that they don't want other promotions to succeed because, they're worried about their slice of the pie or whatever. I was a promoter, but I wasn't a promoter because it didn't matter if the shows did. I was working in the casino. That was my job. That's how I took care of my family. But, yeah, I definitely did that, and it was it's what you do, man. You're promoting, get your brand out there, And at the end of the day, I had to let them know that, I wanted all the shows to do well. I wanted all the fighters hopefully to have opportunity, but I also wanted them to let them know that, remind them that the PFC is the big dog in the valley.
Hey, man, and I remember it was always. If somebody got a call from you, it meant something back then. It really did. Do you ever see yourself coming back over here to the Valley and doing some work over here? Or are you sticking over there?
I don't know. The casino business is a crazy business, and that's what I'm in. First and foremost. I mean, I'm a casino guy that specializes in entertainment within the marketing departments. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, especially as more casinos kind of pop up out there, and in this business you get calls. I got calls from there's recruiters, executive recruiters and stuff to go back to California, but it was like I'm super happy to be here, and it would take I'm home. Like, I get to work with family. I'm working with like people I went to grade school with. Man, it's pretty crazy. And so it's really funny because I'll tell this story too, because this is kind of what made me to leave Bellator. This is the only thing I would have possibly left Bellator for, because I love working with Bellator. So the Seneca Niagara Resort Casino here in downtown Niagara Falls, it's like 2 blocks from the falls, which is one of the wonders of the world, one of the largest waterfalls in the world. When I was a kid, it used to be the Niagara Falls Convention Center. So it was just like the Visalia Convention Center or Selma Arena or State Mart or whatever. And when I was in high school, I was a huge pro wrestling fan. And going back to like 1980, I guess 88-ish, me and two of my friends, the WWF was coming to the Niagara Falls Convention Center. Me and two of my friends, we actually skipped school that day to go hang out in like the parking lot in the back entrance to see if we could like meet any wrestlers and get autographs. And as it turns out, one of the road managers for the WWF came out, and during the day we hung out for hours, and he said, "Hey," he said, "do you guys know where you can get like a high school, like a valedictorian cap and like a gown like you're graduating?" And we were sophomores, juniors in high school. My one friend was a senior. Yeah. And we said, "Yeah, of course, we know." Oh, so there was a wrestler at the time. His name he used to be called even Randy Papa. It was Randy Savage's brother. And then they gave him this character, it's called like the genius. And so he wore a cap and gown, like he was like the smartest guy in the world or whatever. And he left his outfit in wherever they wrestled the night before. And so they needed one because they were in team taping that night. So we took the road manager to the place in town where you take your high school, like your pictures and all that stuff. He bought cap and gown, brought it back. He asked us if we had tickets to the show already, and we're like, all right, well, when that was fast. Holy cow. When the show was over, he let us come into backstage, man, and like meet all the wrestlers, and like I'm standing there, and like Andre the Giant's there.
Oh shit, Andre the Giant?
Dude, it was crazy. I mean, Andre the Giant was nuts, dude. And so from there, they were like, "Hey, we need help in Rochester, which is not too far, like 70 miles away." He's like, "You guys want to come and help set up, we always need people to help set up the ring." And so we were like, "Hell yeah, we'll do it." Like, so we went, and there was the Rochester, the War Memorial Arena, auditorium, and we jumped in there and started setting up the ring. And again, this is a long man who was in college at the time. Shane Vince's son, and a couple other guys, Mike Schimmel, Mike Kyoto, I should say, Tony Schimmel, who were on ring crew, then they were also like ring announcers and referees. But I said all that to say this. What happened was when I got that experience, we went from there, we did like Survivor Series and SummerSlam, like we would go set up the rings, and we'd drive around like these states like Pennsylvania, New Jersey and stuff like that, whenever we had time. They gave us like $20. We'd go to the airport and pick up like the $1 Million Man or Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster, Jake the Snake Roberts, and we'd drive into their hotel and stuff. So we were like runners. And I was just like, I think they gave us like $20 a day and a room for us all to crash in together. But I got to be behind the scenes. Like I was in the backstage of like seeing what it takes to like actually put on an event. And it all started right there in the Niagara Falls Convention Center. And then for that to ultimately, like 20 years later or whatever, turn into a casino. And then to try to operate that casino to offer me a position to come back and steer the entertainment. It was just like my whole life coming full circle because from those experiences, helping out in the pro wrestling shows for a couple of years. That's where I got bit by like the live event bug, whether it's fights or concerts or comedy shows. As far as going back to California, like I never say never about anything. I had an interesting, someone reached out to me about something interesting that would have been like halfway around the world not so long ago, but I'm super happy here, man, working for the Second Game Corporation. To be able to have my kids here and live near family and everything. So it would take something really crazy for me to want to leave there, man.
That's understandable, man. It seems like everything you're doing was meant to be. It's a trip how this world does that. I got one more question from a fan out there that's asking about the time that you went to TJ for some, I think it was the Total Combat fight. Chris Ronquillo, Chris Ronquillo from FU News, and he's one of our boys at MMA Fight Pass. He's asking about the time you went to TJ to the Total Combat show and you guys ended up at some bar after. Says it was a hell of a time. This guy.
So
what happened?
Chris, man. So yeah, we brought Kenny Ento down there to fight Pop.
Kenny Ento, another local.
Yeah, Ento the Dragon, and yeah, man, Uriah was there, so it was me, Uriah, the Poppies, Kenny, there was a few other people, right? And Trevito was there, Mickey was there. Yeah, man, I mean, Tijuana is just, Tijuana can be fun, and you get a bunch of, MMA fighters, get a couple pops in them, and, just run around the streets, and yeah, I think you're right. Might have jumped on a couple cars or something. I'm not sure. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Well, hey, brother, we want to just thank you. I want to thank you. There's so much to talk about, man. We'll get you on again, hopefully. If you ever come back to California for a little visit, get a hold of me so we can get together and you can come in and train with us, man.
Yeah.
We'll go visit Luis.
I definitely will be back there within the next year for a visit for sure. I'll look you up, man. I'd love to be able to train with you and learn from you.
Christian, would you like to give some props out to anybody that you're working for, any of your sponsors or anything?
I don't have any sponsors. I just I'll give thanks to the Seneca Nation of Indians, the Seneca Game Corporation for letting me bring me here, and man, it's fun. I appreciate you giving me the time, and it's nice to catch up with you and to meet Art and she and the son there that likes to say yes and sell things and man, just thank you and hope everyone that's just anyone that's watching or listening has a great night, it's a great day, and I miss the tacos, man. That's one thing for sure.
Oh, dude, those tacos over there can't even get with these tacos here.
Tacos here can't.
No way.
They shouldn't even have the right to call themselves tacos here.
Are they that bad or what?
They're just not tacos. They're not this crazy what passes for a taco here, man. It's just not even like really a taco.
Oh man, well you could at least come back for the tacos then. Hey man, I love Jeremy and 559 Fights and Combates Americanas that's going on here. We go to all these shows, but man, there will never be another time like there was back then with the WEC and the Gladiator Challenge and all that going on. So I just want to really thank you, Christian Printup, for giving us the time and for doing all you did back then. I remember getting a phone call from you back then, and man, that meant the world to me, and I know it did for a lot of these other local fighters as well. So thank you for coming on the show. We got another question here. Oh, you want a new sponsor? Okay. All right, my brother. We're going to let you go at that. Everybody out there, we thank you for tuning in, and you guys can get a hold of us for advertisement. We're doing all kinds of stuff with the MMA Fight Pass. We're still evolving with the technology and everything. But Christian, we hope to see you again soon, and I wish you the best of luck in everything you're doing, and I hope you and your family do great over there, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You too, bro. Thank you so much.
All right, man. We will talk to you again soon, brother.
All right, man.
Thank you. Adios.